So this is the last session of the day. I find closing keynotes to be incredibly tedious, so I didn't want to do one. But I really like game jams, and so I decided we were going to do one of those too. And so instead of a closing keynote, we're going to do the post-mortems from the game jam this weekend. And I'm going to turn this all over to Rick Everhart, who's been running the Demo Hall and Game Jam all weekend for me. Also has been running the live feed remotely and uploading it all as we go. And Rick has been doing this conference. So since Rick actually knows what's going on with the demo hall and the Game Jammer games, he's going to be emceeing all the post-mortems. This is the section where Q&A is absolutely allowed and encouraged because it's developers talking to developers about their development process, which is kind of like in theme for this whole thing. So I assume no one's going to have like a 3-minute bullshit soliloquy like statement, comment more than a question, and instead you can like actually ask questions about how people make these games. And so with that, Rick is going to take it away.
Hi. So if you've been in the game jam area, demo hall area, you've noticed it's been pretty casual, just a bunch of people hanging out, making stuff, which is really, really fun. I noticed a group of people just all of a sudden making interactive fiction at one point, which was cool. We had a number of people who came in who were asking, well, who do I game jam with? And I'm like, well, fine people, they're here. And they all kind of found each other. I didn't have to do a lot of the work, so this is all them. So yeah, let's just get started. Each person's going to have 5 minutes to talk about basically the process of what they made, how they made it, what they were doing, and why. We're going to start off with Amanda with her project.
I am a noob at interactive fiction. I've been working on something for a year, off and on. When I get sick of it, and I come back to it later, like Andrew. And if you are interested in interactive fiction, I had to recommend Aaron Reed's book. That got me into it, and I started doing my own stuff. It's very extensive, as you can see. It's kind of deck. But I'll show you what I have. I don't know. There's something slightly holy about making interactive fiction at MIT, where basically so that felt kind of good. I'm not going to read this to you. I don't really know. Unless someone wants to read it. Owen was a really good voice when we did the play of Lost Pig.
But it has to be a little involved.
Oh yeah, he can only read an orc. I don't know if I'll post this. It's still really in progress because I'm just describing some of the rooms and adding all the pieces. It actually takes a lot to, like you see this, and then this is what it is like here. Like, that's how you write it out. Not this is interesting at all. So it's a lot of contextual stuff, and I don't have all the descriptions, like Jason, like an asshole, decided to start smelling things. Not ready for but I got some advice from a friend, which is like old-time advice: write what you know. And I really know our train system because I've been running it. And I figured that's unique. A lot of people don't realize that that's a unique thing in Boston, so I decided to write about the trains. And I wanted to write a story about someone who gets on a train and falls asleep and ends up in a place that doesn't exist. It's a little Narnia, like that. And I actually got working in Persian, which was neat, because there's some bug with some other translators that are not looking right. I also implemented Aaron Reed's keyword description, so anything that is describable in the game glows, has the blue colors. So you just need to write out the keyword instead of going and examine this. So it's a bit more user-friendly. So I'm excited about that because that's the one problem I have with interactive fiction is it's not user-friendly. And that frustrates me a lot. And I usually want to turn to things like Twine. But that interactive fiction allows you a lot more flexibility as far as having someone explore space and poke things. And I wanted to do a lot of characterization through items. So examining something like oh, I can't spell. I wanted to describe like flavors of Boston through the tea writer's experience by looking at things. So it gets a little snarky sometimes. And I also wanted to get you stuck. So you'll see how you're in the train station, you're in Alewife, or you think it's Alewife because you fell asleep and got an express ride to Alewife the last train, so you're stuck there. But there is a glow that's surprisingly pink. And so you're like, oh, the windows are dirty, that's normal. And then you get out of the subway platform, and it's a pink subway station, which is odd, because Ellen is red. And the train leaves you in there, so you're stuck in this pink subway station at 1 a.m. You're really tired. So I'm going to start doing like otherworldly things. It doesn't go very far yet. I put it in a treasure zone. Ah! Okay. I broke the temperature. But yeah, it's really, really early, so this is just something I'm exploring. I did get a lot of help from the interactive fiction people who are here about endings, because I'm having trouble with the middle. I know what happened at the end, and I know what happens in the beginning. The beginning's fun to write, but what's going to be interesting in the middle? So I'm figuring that out now. How's my time?
3, 2.
Okay, good.
One more.
Okay.
You don't have to take it.
I think I've exposed myself enough of this.
Questions?
Oh, I passed one.
Oh, I'll ask Todd.
No, go ahead. Mine's silly.
Okay.
Okay. What to learn this weekend?
I learned to not get cute and make whole dolls instead of just make containers. I'm not, the problem with writing interactive fiction, this one's very overscoped and big for our first project, so I need to maybe do something smaller in between to get used to. I think I know what I'm doing. Like I almost tried to do a Lumdara one weekend. I'm like, I finished Aaron's book. I'm like, oh, good. I can do a Lumdara. I can jam with this. And then I get like halfway and I can't do it all the conditionals, and I just get bogged down. And I can't do it. So I need to practice more. I learned to be more simple instead of doing a lot of complex stuff. More questions? Todd?
So, what advice did they give you for writing the middle, or did they just kind of look at you in despair?
She told me to start. She gave me 3 endings, or she steered me towards 3 endings, and then she gave me the advice to work, basically try to figure out how we got to that ending. So just working backwards.
Work
like,
backwards.
Yeah. So I'm going to try that, and I hope it'll work, and I'll have a middle that will be just as entertaining as ending up in a subway station that doesn't exist. Any other questions? No? Oh.
If this is your first project, we might not have the answer for this yet, but if it's an overscope project, maybe you do. I guess I'm just wondering, like, so I like sometimes in games when they reach some kind of certain complexity, like you get really interesting bugs. Sometimes, like I'm thinking like a Red Dead Redemption has some bug, people fly like birds. Like, can we think of any examples like this that you experienced or in other interactive fiction? Like, what does a really interesting bug look like in an IF game?
I mean, in IF games, bugs will be like how you define things. So like you'll put a train in your pocket, or you'll eat the moon. That's the problem. That's what gets bogged down in interactive fiction. You have to like account for everything that the player will do and try to either put a funny comment so they won't do it, or just make it so they can't do it. But they usually appreciate it better if you put a funny comment. They're like, oh, I'm being so clever, and then you account for that, and you're like, oh, that's cool. You got it. Gotcha. Anything else? Okay, thank you.
And next we have Alex.
Hello. So this is a game that I started working on a couple of years ago to use in portfolio things, and I thought it would be really easy to do something simple like with only 6 levels or something, but then I started thinking of all these things I could do in the levels, and I've done 1 level so far. Is there sound?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard something.
It worked better than this before. Oh, I think I just forgot to run the entire game. There we go. Okay. So the story is you're trying to reach a hijacked space station and reclaim it before it gets destroyed. And there's a bunch of machinery that you can power if you hit the little activation block thing it takes. And the special thing about the missiles that you can shoot is that if you hold them down and release them later, you can aim at things that are below you because they don't start going ahead right away. You can use that to access things that were out of the way. So this is closer up on the mountain, and at the top of the mountain is a launch base that'll get you to the space station. And it's not necessary to collect all of the shaped coins, but you get bonus things if you do that. The main thing I still have left to work on in this level is that the enemies don't attack you yet, but they make fun sounds, so I still like pushing. These sometimes give you tips about things. This one's telling you that you can change the angle. This is what the rocket looks like. Oh no, it looks like it's lost the power connection. Let's go this way and try to find the key that completes the circuit. Checkpoint. Here's the key to the circuit, which you can then bring back up to the rocket and insert inside the little circuit socket. And then when this is done, you'll be able to get the blast off.
Questions?
like the explosions and the missiles that came in a library with the software. The music also came with the software mostly. Later I'll find some better music.
So how much of this did you work on this weekend?
Not a lot, because I was mostly focusing on the Game Jam game, but I was mostly working on getting the enemy movement to work right here. It's getting closer.
So first, I wanted to say that the animation when your guy is hit in the face with the missile is excellent. So I'm not familiar. I've never used Multimedia Fusion 2. Can you spend maybe 30 seconds talking about why you picked this engine and what you like and don't like about it?
Okay, so what I like about it is that instead of using lines of code to program, there's a sort of chart where along the side is any event. You put down events that might happen, and along the top are all the objects in the game. So you could have something like over here you could have the missile collides with the enemy, and then under the enemy you would put destroy. So, and I'm not that good at programming, so it's a lot easier for me that way. And I've had a lot of experience with this program because I got it when I was very little, and I've been playing around with it a lot. What I don't like is that there's a bunch of really annoying things that happen when you are trying to use a program that tries to make everything easy for you.
Yes.
I've just had all these weird problems where like you'll shoot one enemy and every enemy takes damage, or you'll suddenly fall through a floor. And those are annoying.
Thanks.
One more minute.
We can let somebody else go.
So we made a game that has the working title of Cupcake Game.
Yeah.
And it has the working title of
We've gone infinite.
So the Cupcake Game is a puzzle game that involves acidic jelly monsters. The monsters explode into pools of acid that can harm the player if touched. The player must lure the monsters before killing them with sprinkles in order to clear the passages in order to get to the exit. You are Calvin the Cupcake. Your family is certainly dead. You are infiltrating the Jelly Fortress in an attempt to avenge the delicious deaths of your family members.
Came from an idea I had a little while about a game where when you destroy enemies, it I came from an idea I had for a game where when you destroy enemies, it cuts off part of the floor, so you have to balance between shooting enemies so they don't attack you and still being able to make your way through the maze. So there's some debate early on about whether you should totally cut off the floor or just have there be some kind of goo that damages your health. And so early on, we're also talking about having it be a nature-themed game where there's toxic waste and the main character is going to be an acorn or a squirrel, and then eventually evolve towards the cupcake game.
So yeah, the art went through a lot of different styles, and we mainly just chose something that would be the easiest to animate in the end. This is mostly sprite animation.
And yes, you're shooting sprinkles.
Buy our game.
What did you use to make this?
We use Unity.
Unity, okay.
Just so you know, it's exceptionally hard to play this with a trackpad. The mouse.
Have a mouse.
You want to borrow a mouse?
Should at least get past level 1.
You have a mouse in your pocket. Well, that's even better.
I didn't think this game would be so hard.
Can you say a little bit about how you split the work on your big team? You worked in a couple days, so how did you divide who did what?
Yeah, well, we were supposed to have 2 programmers. The way it actually turned out was he did the programming, and I kind of sat there and asked, "Are you sure you don't need help?" So I was like the auxiliary programmer here in case the first one failed, but as it turned out,
She did the wonderful AI enemies here.
Yeah, well, it's basically when you get in the enemy's line of sight, it starts following you.
Alex and I both did the art. I sort of animated the cupcake dying. The little blob exploding.
I did the audio.
Love design.
And this was the first time we had done sprite goods animation in Unity, so it's rough.
A total of 5 levels.
That's 10 hour experience.
So, one thing we learned is that you should probably do incremental backups. Yeah. We lost like 3 hours of work today. Around lunchtime, so when the rest of the world eats lunch, we do what we just did.
Is this voice acting original work as well, or?
Yeah, everything. I did everything in the last 2 days.
Who does the cupcake cry?
That was me.
That noise.
Yeah, yeah. You can grab any of the assets you like. Talk to me afterwards.
I want to win so I can show off the beginning of Netflix.
Maybe you could put some DLC where the user could spend money to remove the acid that left behind.
Cupcake armor.
Like the soil.
You plug in on a Facebook API and ask for help and clear up the mess.
So Naomi came up with the idea to make a game that has, when you kill the enemies, they make part of the map useless to you. So we really wanted to incorporate that because it's something you don't really see that often. So
That was where I was starting.
we have
We
1
had
minute.
originally had like a rainforest theme. That didn't work out. I don't know how we got cupcake.
What didn't work out about the rainforest though?
We didn't have enough time to do all that art because we were talking about like trees and animating a squirrel running and throwing acorns and trees growing up. That would have taken longer than 2 days. The cupcake doesn't even have legs, so he was really great. And then there are only, I think, 5 frames for the blob.
So does this have any of you made the game before?
that we hadn't tried. There's something called Rage Spline in Unity that we used. Oh, we did.
I mean, even for the problems that you're having in your demonstration and your instances, bad guys that are killing you over and over, there's something really compelling about this cupcake. I think this is cool.
You can make it, I believe you can.
The controls are a little bumper car. Nobody look for
See, if it was easy, you wouldn't be getting this round of applause.
What's your gesture value?
Oh, sorry, one more. Yeah. Oh, maybe one more before this one. Go ahead. You want to choose 10, 24 residents of the 8 or smaller. Yeah.
Okay, so this is more of a demonstration of an idea I had in a full game. It is something I made a month ago, but sort of in the spirit of the game jam, I only spent 2 days on it. So it's gesture based. So you play as a mage here, and you cast spells by drawing them with the mouse. So there's like 2 inches I have on this podium. It's really tricky. To shoot, you can just draw slashes like this. You can draw an arrow and shoot like an arrow. You have a circle spell. I think there's like a healing spell or something that doesn't do anything. Again, there's 2 keys. There's some skeletons. So I didn't do any of the modeling. All the models were free online. I just did the programming and design. And a friend of mine did the music. This guy like here. It's a big monster. And this guy is too big to. Just a single shot just kind of makes him mad. But there's a time mechanic, so you can sort of slow the time and stack these gestures together. So that's pretty much it to this demonstration. There's a treasure chest up here. So basically, target platform is tablets, and this is loud. I wanted to do something with gestures because we don't see touch used very well on tablets. We see a lot of analogs or just click this button, and we have these really nice devices where we can do a lot of input and new things, but nobody really seems to be trying to about. So that was the goal. Questions?
So what led you to the spellcasting fiction?
I don't know. What led me to the spellcasting vision or
Fiction. It's like why make a magic user who's doing all these things instead of
I don't know. It's hard. Well, just magic is close to my heart. That's how I think of myself as like as a professional wizard, because I just sit around all day and write around and write arcane languages that only a few people study. I mean, what is a computer? You just take a bunch of sand and metal and press it into a geometric thing, and then you can shout some spells at it and it does them. So. Yeah,
what's the difference between them?
visual. I mean, one has a more area of effects, and the other is just like a simple projectile.
Did you roll your own gesture recognition system?
Yeah, it's actually, well, I don't, it's for sale. I don't know if I should pitch it, but yeah. I released it on some, you can buy it, and it's a Unity plugin. But yeah, I wrote the whole gesture recognition as well. Any questions? No? Thanks.
Hi. So I have like two things to show. One thing's the thing that I made in like the last 2 hours, and it was built on top of this kind of failed prototype, and that's the second thing I'll show. And I didn't make the prototype here, but I want feedback on it. So I played Mole Industria's Unmanned, and I really liked how they combined like kind of action sequences with kind of these like IF kind of sensibilities. So I kind of got this idea that I could combine this interactive fiction tool called Twine and combine it with like Unity and kind of make it so they can like talk with each other and kind of see what I could do with that. So this is the thing I made the first 2 days. I made some kind of like conversation you do with someone. I don't know, text isn't really important. And then ideally, like whatever you do in the Unity window would like combine with the text to make some beautiful like image, sound, narrative thing. And these are assets I'm using for another project, so I kind of just whipped this scene up real quick. And that's a skull on the table. Memento mori. Yeah, so that's the thing I made. And that kind of got me thinking that maybe they don't need to like talk to each other. Like maybe the Unity thing could be this like visualizer to like accompany the text. But originally I kind of had them more intertwined. This is the prototype I did before. It's called Zobite or Zobi, or I'll just say Zobite. And it's based off this chapter of Calvino's Invisible Cities. And yeah, I guess I'll start with that. I think there's so the idea is that kind of like Unity could be this kind of like multimedia kind of thing to accompany the text, and also kind of an interactive thing too. Text isn't really that important. Although it's really good, I ripped most of it from Calvino, so it's it's like, I really like the idea of like kind of chamber theater that kind of adapts like novels into plays using text pretty much exclusively from novels. This could be kind of like a chamber game, so to speak. So I'll just keep clicking on stuff. And originally I had it, this is kind of an old build, so I guess the API broke or something. But originally you'd see this giant city developing in front of you, and that's because this game is kind of about building a city. And it kind of ties into the narrative too. So imagine there's like 1,000 buildings before you, and it looks awesome. So you like enter the city kind of, ooh, ominous. And then keep going. And keep going. And you find out that where you walk kind of builds this city. So it's kind of like a city building mechanic, but maps to like a WASD mouse wheel per person. It's really loud. So I'll go a little, just so you can kind of see. So as you kind of like build the city, it uploads all the buildings you kind of made, erupted out of the ground, and uploads it to a server. And ideally, if sea level list failed to load because of one valid request, so it's kind of broken. But ideally, it would load like 1,000 buildings that were from other players too. So it's kind of this exquisite corpse where players are like building cities on top of cities on top of cities, kind of like a Calvino idea. And I think one reason why this kind of prototype was kind of weird is because the like interactive fiction-y side and like the first-person side, it was kind of hard to get those two interfaces to play nice. Like you play this first-person thing, and you'd be like, oh cool, like I can like build a city and stuff. And then you forget that there's like this text down here that you can like click to keep going, and they'll tell you more and stuff. But that wasn't, like they weren't really connected, and it was kind of hard to connect them. And I couldn't figure out a reason, or I couldn't figure out like a way to connect them. And that was kind of depressing. I wasn't sure what to do with it. But I'm going to try to like pursue this different direction. Hopefully, I'll like tweet about that. And yeah, that's what I tried. Thanks.
Questions?
Hi, yeah, so I just get this set up really quickly. I'm Catherine Moriarty. I'm an interactive fiction writer, or at least at one point I was. The issue with this is that I wrote my last thing for IFConf in 2009. And ever since then, life happens, so there has not been anything since 2009. So I guess the reason I did the Game Jam series was, one, to get in the mind space of people who actually do interactive fiction and who actually are immersing themselves and stuff like this all weekends. And reason two, to work, I suppose, on a project I've had in the works for about a year. Now, I guess there are two ways you can approach Game Jam stuff. You can do what the IF Summit, that's for those not familiar, it's IF people come together for the past 2 years in Boston, usually around PAX, sometimes in Seattle for other PAX. But where I'm going with this is that every year they do kind of like a speed IF event, which is sort of like the Game Jam, only explicitly for newborns. The problem with that is that when I do stuff like this, I usually end up making all these crazy ideas with titles and nothing else, like shit I don't remember, like Happy Ever Sewer System, or Honey Badger and this is law. I don't remember what these even are, and they're not really likely to have much meaning for me months later when I have never revisited them. So I guess what I'm working on right now is I've been, since I moved to New York, I've been really active in a lot of, so to speak, a lot of people I know are writers, that's kind of what I do. A lot of people I know do fiction, flash fiction, like all this experimental fiction stuff. And every time I look at this, I think this isn't too far away from what IF's doing. And I guess the other part of this is that Deirdre, a couple months ago, had this whole thing where she had mentioned about how games need to just be more diverse in what they're covering. She actually touched on that in her talk today. Like, I love genre fiction. I think it's great. I think it's fantastic. I read a lot. But I feel like in terms of IF especially, it's a little bit overrepresented. One, because it's easier to write, but two, it's just an audience thing. When you self-select, that's what happens. So, what I'm working on, unfortunately, I got some done. I didn't get as much as I'd like to do, because it's like Amanda was saying, it's like a really large project, and I set myself a goal of 1 chapter. I think I got like half. But it is basically like from the whole write what you know, it's pretty much set at a women's website. And the way it's going to be set is that there are multiple chapters about every employee or whatnot, every person, and it's like one of those intertwined story things. This person named Bridget, she is not actually the main character. It's like, I'm just going to be on autopilot playing through stuff, so don't mind me. Anyway, yes. This part is okay. Hey, how is working on? Yeah, it's pretty much interactive story, whatnot. Not really what I expected. This kind of verse is showing your idea. I don't need to bring it out loud. Obviously, you've seen it before, but here's the source codes. Anyway, I guess what I'd eventually like to accomplish this when I have more hammering on it is that I feel like interactive fiction in general is something which, in terms of storytelling, there's still so much that can be done. I don't know if this is one. Oh, sorry. And I feel like, I guess one thing I like about the Game Jam is that it really just, I was surprised at how many people who were picking up IF who I hadn't even known were interested before. I feel like that's something really great about things like this, is that you really get to just cross-pollinate so many different subfields of game design, which I think is really cool, especially in this thing like this. Anyway, this is me just that is not actually supposed to happen. I don't know what that is. So pay no attention to go. Anyway, sorry. Cool. I feel like I'm running out of time, so yeah, I'm going to cut this short. But does anybody have any questions?
Do you have a grasp on what the chapters are going to be? You're just having difficulty planning, making that happen, or is it still kind of a wide open thing?
I have the whole thing outlined,
Okay.
which, as everybody knows, means very little. But there's not, yes.
I don't know much about how people approach writing IF in general. People usually kind of come up with a critical path through the entire story and then kind of write extra branches around that after having done the first thing first. But like, it's a really personal thing how you go about doing it.
I mean, I feel like there's as many answers to that as there's people writing, just like it would be with fiction. For me, I've always needed to have really strict outlines so I have an idea of what I'm doing. It's like very modular in a sense.
Is there a place, are there online communities that you can go to, like, if you want critiquing of like your interactive fiction?
Yes, excellent question. Yes, there's infiction.org. That's, I guess, the main core right now. There's IF Mud, where a lot of IF people just hang out and occasionally talk about IF. More than occasionally right now because the comp deadline's approaching. And then there used to be the news groups on Google Groups, but I feel like most people migrated to the forum. So infiction.org actually. Yeah, anybody else? Or awesome.
And lastly, we're going to have a demo.
volunteers with a lab PC that feel like letting me run my game on. That might connect to this projector.
PC?
Yeah.
PC is safe to make in.
Well, this is boot camp, but there's something with the display drivers that.
You don't need any special drivers.
No.
Just one. Is there one more right here? Thank you.
BBB Evo?
Yep. And then you can just run from there. But like,
Oh, really?
I should run from this. Like, yeah. Oh, actually, beautiful. Little crop. Oh, all right, sorry about that, but seems to be right. So this is not a game I made for the game jam. This is I brought this just a demo. This is something I made for an exhibit at NYU's Game Center earlier this year. They have every year they have an exhibition called No Quarter, which is like a collection of original games that they commission to be played in the public space. It's kind of like playing on the idea of the new arcade that people like Hannah Anthony have spoken about. Just kind of try to like breathe new life into people playing in video games like in spaces together. And not only video games, actually, they commission big games and kind of tabletop games as well. But it went well, so I decided to continue development on it, and I'm kind of just taking it around and meeting people and doing play testing. It's kind of a competitive, multiplayer-only game, so it requires a lot of play testing. And being as it's meant to be played in public spaces, like things like stability are really important in performance. So iron out all the bugs, make sure it's balanced and fair. So I guess we're just going to play real quick. We'll just kind of show you what it's about.
You chose her.
Sorry. So the aim is to score in your role, which for Robert is the blue, and I'm going to be going to the pink. So you just drop the ball in there, you get a point. If you fall in yourself, you'll lose a point. Fairly simple controls. The only thing that's a little, I think that one of the things that ended up being one of the more interesting aspects of the design is the way that the players have around 8 jumps, which are represented by circles surrounding each player. And so you can get quite a bit of mobility in the air, daring rescues and such. And then when you, whoops,
Oh, no.
But so to complete finish my thought, when you're touching the ground, your jumps will regenerate slowly. So you got to balance.
Oh, what? Oh, God.
So he had a bunch of like professional Street Fighter players to like test this, and he chose what they agreed was the best character ever.
Yeah, actually, earlier this month, we went to Vegas to EVO, which is this big tournament for Street Fighter and Keynote Fighters and other games like that, and had a lot of fun play testing there. Some very skilled people.
Oh. I can't even get one? Come on.
feel free to come up and play against someone who's not me.
Can you taunt in the game?
I'm sorry?
Can you taunt?
Yes, you can taunt by pressing the select button. The menus are a little messed up because this aspect ratio is not the same as my laptop, but I didn't test for that. But other than that,
How much effort did it take to get to this point?
it's been several months. It's been probably more than half a year, 7 or 8 or 9 months, so quite a bit of effort. Luckily, the Game Center commission came with a little bit of money, which let me spend time on this that I might have otherwise spent on freelance projects and let me get hardware and stuff. So, yeah, it's a lot of work. Like the feel and kind of like everything is supposed to be as deterministic as possible, and kind of want people to be able to think about some kind of cool moves without too much experience. So there's a great deal of time spent on little details with the input, at least.
What was your inspiration for the game?
Obviously there's a lot of stuff art in Smash Brothers. Like I really like air kind of combat in games like Smash Brothers and like Marvel vs. Capcom. So I definitely wanted to like pull that something from that kind of situation where you're like wrestling with like the other player, but also with gravity and kind of the difference between being over the ground and being over open space.
Well, this is quite a question, but
yeah, this all is really hard.
They view that as an objective other than just hitting the other player.
Yeah.
That's
why. Yeah, having to focus on both the ball and the other player kind of makes it feel different than like a more traditional fighting game.
I have a question for Lee and another question.
Shenanigans.
So, I think I know the answer to this based on what you've already said, but where do you fall on the is Smash Brothers a potential serious fighting game versus is it just a party game divide? And I have a legit question that builds on that. So.
I don't know. I think it's kind of a stupid argument. If people play games competitively, the game they're playing is a competitive game. I don't really see. I haven't really heard any valid counter arguments that go beyond that. But feel free.
So, what elements? Dang, son. What elements of competitive fighting game culture kind of influenced your design decisions with that?
Well, one of the things that people, even a lot of Smash players complain about that game is that the fact that it has a lot of randomness in it, which I don't think is really. There's nothing inherently that anti-competitive about randomness. I mean, people play poker competitively, obviously, and that's a game completely designed around randomness. Same with Magic the Gathering and a lot of older games. But for some reason, something about video games, especially when physical skill becomes involved, having randomness becomes really distasteful for people, even if it's up in the air whether it really makes a difference in terms of where people would rank in terms of the most skillful players or whatever.
I'm very, very tired of dying at the bottom of the screen.
Maybe when it seems to be a difficult stage. But so to answer your question real quickly, the big thing for me was to keep all the kind of physicality and kind of the of a game like Smash, but without anything that's random. It's there's no moving platforms, just unpredictable stages or items falling anywhere. And it's kind of an aesthetic decision, but I don't think that necessarily makes the game more competitive or less competitive, but it is a flavor. And so there's nothing like that in the world, so I kind of wanted to bring something like that to the world.
I say this with all love in my heart, but looking at this, I'm like, wow, somebody made an 8-bit version of the stage building thing in Smash Bros. Brawl. That was my initial perception of the stuff that you were doing.
Yeah, I would love to make something, to be able to include something like that. That would be a really fun addition.
Any other questions?
Sorry, I had a question or comment. How much money can I pay you for this? No, but actually, a somewhat serious comment is, what are your plans for this?
There's kind of still to be decided. There'll be a time where you can probably give me money to take it home or just take it home for free, but not just yet.
That was a lot of fun. And my comments about the randomness or the lack of randomness or whatever. Wow. One of the articles that I talked about in link to from RTG ColorCon talks about life being a universe of randomness and how you can make a game without any randomness in it at all. They have those. Chess. Sure. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's fun. And having enough randomness is good, and it's very good to help, for instance, bad people at a game not feel so bad because they can blame something other than themselves.
Right. I mean, but it's a open question if that kind of mechanic is desirable in a competitive game. I mean, chess is fun without any randomness. Although I was actually, just as maybe kind of a tangent, I was just listening to a podcast with Richard Garfield.
Oh yeah?
And he talked about how, I'm not really sure I buy this argument, but his point was that chess actually does have randomness because you don't know what's going on in the other person's head. And you can view like their decision-making process, since they don't have complete information either, as like a random number generator.
I've had very few conversations, actually, I can count them 3, with Richard Garfield, and I respect the hell out of him, and I think absolutely. Yes. It's almost like right now I consider what can top this? Great. The only thing that's missing is you need a very hyperactive, very caffeinated 20 to 24-year-old boy yelling commentary.
I keep wanting to say something about Pringles.
So this is the very anticlimactic denouement. Yeah, we have this space until 10 p.m. technically because of the game jam booking. So if people want to just hang out, and if Darius just wants to keep losing. So there's a lot of sandwiches downstairs.
So if you fall in, you lose, but if you score, you win. Okay.
So yeah, that's not your
I can touch water.